Hey, how are you all today? Welcome to Integrative Preparedness. Is shot placement everything? That's what I want to talk about today. I had trouble with the mic on the last one that I did, so I'm just going to have to do this with the mic on the phone. So I'll try to talk loudly enough and hope that this comes out. I'm getting irritated with these different mics that don't seem to be working. Apparently, YouTube has put up, it's pushing my video from several years ago about why you should not carry a 9mm, because I see that a lot of questions are coming over from them. Boy, that upsets so many people. And so I'm having to answer those questions. And so often, one of the stupid comments, now it's stupid in one way and it's not in another, is, well, but shot placement is everything. Okay. Now I'm going to do something on this video that I rarely do, but I might start doing more. Who knows? And that is, I'm going to turn off the comments. And there's already, I'll guarantee you, there were already 4 or 5 people who had furiously pounded on their keyboard, yes, shot placement is everything. And I'll guarantee you something else. Those people have never been in a self-defense shooting. They've only shot at paper targets, and they have learned from magazines and the guy at the gun counter. And I'm going to give you some information from experience, because it's important to understand the truth about these things. If you're going to carry a gun, you want to know the truth. Okay, so I'm going to turn off the comments, because this is not a place, simply because when those silly comments come on, it confuses people who don't know. Now, why should I be on telling you about anything like this? I was a police officer. If you're not familiar with me, I was a police officer for a long time, a deputy sheriff, a town marshal. I worked undercover narcotics and organized crime in a large city for everything from local to federal agencies. I was a private contractor after that. I've been a private detective. I've carried a gun for, I always have to figure this out, 49 years now. Almost 50. Be 50 here in a couple of months. But I've carried a gun for almost 50 years. Where I get my information is from firsthand experience. And that's the problem. There are far more people out here trying to tell people about guns than actually know about them. And that's the problem in so many things, that people are trying to teach what they don't know. And as a result, people get wrong information. So I get my information from my own experience, from shooting investigations on the street, from ERs, and from the morgue, from the coroner. So what is this question about shot placement is everything? Now, Wyatt Earp is famous for saying, apparently, that fast is fine, but accuracy is everything. That's true. It means you want to hit your target. But where this idea of shot placement is everything comes from, it usually comes from the people who are apologists, or those who want to explain why they carry a smaller caliber weapon. Calibers that I don't suggest, and usually that means the 9mm. I don't suggest the 9mm. Why? Because if you are posed with a self-defense situation, what puts a stop to it is tissue damage and blood loss in the other person. Okay? And the bigger and the more powerful the round, the more damage it does to the meat on the other person, the more blood loss and the more initial shock, and the greater chance you have of bringing that to a conclusion as quickly as possible. And that's what you want. You don't want an ongoing attack situation. You want them to stop their attack on you as quickly as you can. Very rarely is a person in a self-defense shooting situation going to be able to shoot as well as they think they do. I always say, unless you're shooting government ammo, which means unless you're not buying your own ammo, because it gets expensive. Unless you are with a military or a police special unit who is shooting all the time and don't have to worry about what you would otherwise be spending thousands of dollars on a month in ammo, and you get very good when you do that. Unless you're doing that, you are not going to be able to place your shots in such a way that a smaller caliber is going to be as effective as a larger caliber. Well, why is that, Steve? Because when I go to the range, you might say, I shoot pretty darn good. Yeah, that's right. Almost everybody shoots pretty darn good at the range. Okay. The problem is the paper targets aren't shooting back at you. And if someone is realistic, if they are honest with themselves, they will admit that probably they're not going to be as cool if somebody is shooting at them as they are standing there in a nice, dry, temperature-controlled range or an outside range or whatever. Okay, there is something about somebody shooting at you that has a negative effect on your marksmanship. And I say that, okay? If these things happen, they often don't happen in the best light. They don't happen in the best situation. Your adrenaline's pumping. They're moving. You're probably moving. All sorts of things are happening. And all of a sudden you're going to find that your fine motor skills and you're finding your sights, and which is another thing. When I train people, I teach them to point shoot, because the last thing you're going to do if somebody is, 20 feet away from you, 15 feet away from you, and they're coming shooting at you, the last thing you're going to do is find your sights. Trust me on that. You're going to be shooting at them. That's why you want to be able to point shoot, intuitive shooting. That's a different subject. In the ideal world, if you were able to shoot exactly where you want to, then a smaller caliber could be effective. Okay, a 9mm. Now, a 9mm and a 38 are the very, very smallest calibers that I would suggest at all for self-defense, and I don't suggest either of them as long as you can carry something bigger. Because when your adrenaline's going during that fight or flight crash, and I always say when you're under attack, you have three enemies: confusion, fear, and the attacker, and you're going to be going through that. When those things are happening, you're going to be lucky to hit anywhere in center mass. That's why people are taught to shoot center mass. Okay. And I heard a video recently to where somebody said, hey, even if it's a 9mm, if it hits you up here or wherever, it's going to take you. No, it won't. There have been people soak up multiple 9mm. They've soaked up multiple 40s or 45s, but they do much more poorly the larger the caliber. Okay, so you're going to be lucky to hit somewhere here. Okay? If you were super cool and you're a tier 1 guy or a SWAT guy, and you have been through the stress inoculation, meaning under stress training, and even non-real stress training doesn't approach real stress, real life, okay, when it's happening. You can go through a shoot house, and that's great. That trains you a lot. When it's real, it's different, okay? And but unless you're one of these guys who is in, can kind of put it where you want it, exactly where you want it. You want to put just as many as you can in the mass that is going to slow those people down. Okay. So when you realize that, you realize that your shot placement, it's going to diminish, along with your stress. You just want as much trauma. You want to introduce as much trauma into your attacker as you can. Now I'm going to show you a few rounds here. So this is why I suggest larger calibers. Okay. I was going to show you a few calibers here. I thought I had some 9mm, but I don't even have any 9mm ammo because I hate it. I thought I had one, but I guess I must have given it to somebody because I'm sure not going to bet my life on it. Here is a 40 caliber. Okay. That's the step up. That's what I suggest people carry: 40 caliber or 45 or 357 or 10 millimeter. And then there will be those that say, well, I carry 357 SIG, and don't worry about all those specialty ones. This is about people who really want to be effective in their self-defense, as opposed to those who want to be able to talk about cool stuff, right? Okay. Now, putting next to it, here is a 45. Shall I say? Can you see the difference there? For those of you who don't mess with these things, see the difference? See how much bigger the 45 is than the 40? Okay. Now, you'll hear people try to introduce you to the information. Well, it's different muzzle velocities and different energy, at impact and things like that. Yeah, there's a little bit of that, not enough to matter. Usually, the bigger, the better. The bigger the round, the more destruction it's going to cause, the more blood loss, the more quickly the person is going to leave the fight, leave the attack on you. And if they happen to hit a bone or an artery or whatever, it's going to bring it to a much quicker conclusion. Now, I don't have any. I guess I shut up all of my 10 millimeter. But here's something that's kind of like it. A 10 millimeter is essentially a 40 caliber. A 40 caliber is 10 millimeter, but it's longer than that 40. The 40 is the smallest that I suggest. Okay. Here is a 41 Magnum, because I have a 41 Magnum. I think the 41 Magnum is the greatest cartridge ever invented, and the greatest gun, a Model 57 Smith & Wesson. Most of you don't care about that. That is a 41 Magnum there on your left, and that's going to be somewhat equivalent to a 10 millimeter. Okay, I'll have to get some more 10 millimeter. Anyway, that's just a very brief description of the relative calibers, because you're not going to be able to place your shot, even though the people will tell you shot placement is everything. And I tell you what, like I say, the people who stress that have never been, I'll guarantee you, have never been in a shooting, because the guys who have been in the shootings wouldn't leave that comment. Okay. But unless you can put the shot exactly where you want it, you want the bigger calibers. And I'll say right this, even though I'm going to be doing one on introduction, handgun introduction for beginners here one of these days when I get around to it. I've just had a lot going on. But oops, somebody's calling me. I'll be right back. Okay, that happens a lot when I'm shooting, but it's the time that all the kids are getting home from school, and when they get home, I like to go say hi. So especially for the newer people, a lot of people go with the 9 millimeter because they've been told that it's easier to handle. It's not easier to handle. It's not easier to handle. You don't get in the same size of weapon. You get almost the same capacity in a 40 as you do a 9, and a 40 is much more effective. Okay, and even then, when you get up into the 45, so many people, don't fall for the people who will tell you, especially you ladies, well, you want a 9 millimeter because 40s or 45 are just too hard to handle. It was too hard for the FBI to handle, and all that. There's a great video. I think they might have taken it down of, I think, a 10-year-old girl shooting a 10 millimeter and making fun of the FBI. She was just doing great. There are reasons as these organizations go with 9 millimeter, and it has nothing to do with effectiveness. And I'll get into that another time. But my daughter, who's 13, when she was still 12, she handled a 40 and my big government model 45 just fine. She can do it. You can do it. Okay. So anyway, I just wanted to put that out there. This idea that shot placement is everything. Yes, it is, if you can place your shots there. Very few people are going to be able to place their shots there under the kind of stress you'll be under in a self-defense shooting when somebody is coming after you. Okay. I don't care, if you're a 3-gun or competition or whatever, there is something about somebody actually trying to kill you that kind of changes your perspective, right? So because you're probably not going to be able to place your shots in exactly the right way, you want the bigger calibers. Okay. I hope that helped. I can just imagine the frustration of the hundreds of people out there who are so mad that they can't leave their little comments about shot placement is everything. It because I read an article about it. So make sure that where you're getting your information is from somebody that actually knows. Okay. And oh, by the way, I should have said if I talk about the effectiveness of calibers in my books. If you haven't read them, you might be interested in that. And that's the Stonemont series. I actually talk about the 41 Magnum in here quite a bit too. The Stonemont series, the books that I wrote about the complete guide to preparing for, surviving, and rebuilding after a complete collapse of everything. If you haven't read them and you are serious about preparedness, this is probably the next thing you need to do. You can get them through Amazon, the link's down below, or you can get them directly from me. And you can get them through our website, stonemont.us. And that link is down below, too. We have a special on the entire set, a one-click special. You get a nice discount, plus you get the Stonemont notebook thrown in. And also, you can get our mugs, the latest one. Missed me, suckers. You see, when you're under stress, you don't always hit what you're shooting at, right? Right? Hey, missed me, suckers. It wouldn't have mattered what caliber they were using if you miss, right? But if you hit, you want the biggest one you can. So you all have a good day. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow. And being prepared well means carrying an effective sized round, not a little bitty one. Okay. You all have a good day, and I'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.